Hey guys, it's Wednesday, and I still want to talk about WrestleMania. I still want to talk about professional wrestling. I still want to talk about what happened in Las Vegas, Nevada this weekend. I still want to talk about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and why he wasn't in Las Vegas, Nevada for WrestleMania weekend at Allegiant Stadium. It still baffles me that The Rock, and again, I don't think it was The Rock, I think it was Dwayne Johnson. Actually, I know it was Dwayne Johnson because The Rock is a fictional character and Dwayne Johnson is a non-fictional human being. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson decided that it was best for business, alongside Nick Khan, to show up at the Elimination Chamber in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, to help with the biggest heel turn of the century in professional wrestling. And I get it. But as soon as you do that, Dwayne, you're a part of the storyline. As a matter of fact, you're the head of the storyline. You're the head of the faction. A faction that includes the final boss. It includes Travis Scott for some reason. And it includes the new heel John Cena to take on the undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes at the time. Going into WrestleMania, you should know that this is the biggest event of the year. It's the spectacle. It's the granddaddy of them all. It's the showcase of the immortals. It's WrestleMania. This is the event in which the biggest superstar in the world needs to show his face. Not at the Elimination Chamber, at WrestleMania. Now, I know the original plan potentially was to have this turn at WrestleMania, which honestly, as a guy that was in attendance for WrestleMania, would have been fucking awesome. But we get it at the Elimination Chamber in Toronto in a packed house at the Rogers Center, which was equally as cool. It doesn't matter where it ended up happening. The fact is that it happened the way it did, and it was one of the top 3 moments in the history of professional wrestling. With that being said, you need to follow that at the biggest event that you have to offer. It's WWE Super Bowl. The Rock needed to be at WrestleMania. Dwayne Johnson knows that. Who knows why he wasn't? I don't think what he said on the Pat McAfee show yesterday gave us any inclination as to what really happened. Yes, he wasn't supposed to be there. They brought him in for the Elimination Chamber to sell tickets. Fine. You did the biggest angle that the WWE has ever done in its history at that pay-per-view, at that PLE event. You got to show up at the biggest event of the year. You decided to show up last year when nobody really wanted you, and you pivoted, and you turned it into a great story. You show up at the third wheel, and you called it a third wheel. It was the third wheel PLE when it comes to WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and Elimination Chamber for the road to WrestleMania. You show up for that one. You don't want to show up for the biggest event of the year, the event that you love showing up at. It's the only event that you show up at when you come back, and you don't decide to show up in the story that you started. Regardless if you wanted to be involved in that storyline or not, you were involved. You're the head of the storyline. You're the head of the faction. You have to be there. So, Rock, I only got one thing to say. Hey, Rock, go fuck yourself. With that being said, let's start the show. The Rock doesn't need to be the center point of this show. And again, for all intents and purposes, I am kidding. But The Rock not showing up at WrestleMania is something that I think it kills the final boss character. I really think it does. I think if he comes, I mean, obviously we'll have him, but at this point in time, I don't see why you would have The Rock involved in any storylines moving forward as the final boss to take out Cody Rhodes, to join forces with John Cena and Travis Scott. I mean, if you're not going to show up, you basically said that you didn't want to be involved. You didn't want to take the spotlight away from John Cena and Cody Rhodes. It wasn't your place to be there. Then why the hell was it Travis Scott's place to be there? Why is Travis Scott a non-wrestler who we've never even heard talk, who showed up randomly at the Elimination Chamber with The Rock? Why is he involved in the biggest main event that WWE had to offer with John Cena and Cody Rhodes? It just doesn't make sense. And I don't think we're going to see Travis Scott for quite some time either. Bad Bunny says that he loves pro wrestling. We haven't seen him in 4 years. Travis Scott, I don't think is coming back anytime soon. He shouldn't have been involved in that storyline to begin with, an Elimination Chamber. He shouldn't be involved at WrestleMania. There. Now I'm done with The Rock and Travis Scott. On to bigger and better things. John Cena is the new 17-time world champion in the WWE, and that begs the question, ladies and gentlemen. It took forever. It took nearly 8 years for John Cena to win that 17th championship, to defeat Ric Flair's 16 record. That was the biggest record in professional wrestling when it came to title reigns forever. He held the record for as long as he, has been in his retirement, basically. Nobody sniffed it. John Cena tied it in 2017. He beats it in 2025. It begs the question, ladies and gentlemen, is anybody going to be an 18-time World Heavyweight Champion? Who's going to break John Cena's record? I personally don't think we're ever going to see it. I don't think we are ever going to enter an era again unless it's long after Paul Levesque and Triple H and Nick Khan are gone, that we are going to be in an era again where the title switched hands as often as it did in the PG era under Vince McMahon. I mean, Cena was the champion. Orton was the champion. Cena was the champion. Orton was the champion. Batista was the champion. Orton was the champion. Triple H was the champion. Cena was the champion. It just went back and forth. They were playing hot potato for like that entire 2005 to 2015 era where John Cena won the title like 10 times in 5 years. Randy Orton won it like 7 times. Batista won it, I guess, only 6 times when Triple H won it 14 times total in his career. The titles changed hands often. You know who's behind John Cena right now? Ric Flair with 16. Randy Orton with 14. Triple H with 14, who is retired and will never enter a ring in a competitive fashion ever again. Edge with 11. Who's not even in WWE and probably won't ever return to WWE before he retires. Brock Lesnar with 10. We don't know if Brock Lesnar is ever coming back or if he's going to get 8 more title reigns if he ever does come back. And then The Rock has 10 and so on and so forth. I don't see a scenario where Roman Reigns holds the title. He'd have to hold it 11 more times to beat John Cena's record. I don't see that happening. Cody Rhodes would have to hold the title, 17 more times to beat John Cena's 17-time record. He's only been a world champion once in his entire WWE career. I don't see it ever happening again. John Cena will forever be, at least in his lifetime, and I think in our lifetime, the longest, or the leader in title reigns with 17. That being said, he's going to take on a guy who's looking for number 15 at Backlash in his hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. John Cena versus Randy Orton. It's unofficial, but I'm pretty sure it's happening given the circumstances of it being Randy Orton's hometown. They want to get Cena versus Orton one last time, and for the first time ever. And again, John Cena and Randy Orton in 2025 is insane enough to hear, but we're getting John Cena versus Randy Orton in 2025 with a heel John Cena versus a babyface Randy Orton. So something's got to give there. John Cena's probably going to win this feud. I'd assume it'd be a one-off. Money in the Bank is in Los Angeles on June 7th. Again, I would not book John Cena versus CM Punk for a nostalgia act, but we might get it given that this whole Braun Breaker, Paul Heyman, Seth Rollins angle might involve Roman Reigns a lot more first than it might involve CM Punk. It's going to involve both of them, I think, going into Backlash, but maybe you tail off and give CM Punk a title match given the history of John Cena versus CM Punk in that WWE Championship at that Money in the Bank pay-per-view. But who knows? Again, I wouldn't personally be a big fan of it, but at the same time, I would be a fan and enjoy the feud going into Money in the Bank on June 7th. And then you got to assume that Cody Rhodes is going to come back at some point over the summer for SummerSlam. You get that rematch with Cena and Rhodes. I think at some point, you see John Cena versus AJ Styles. You see John Cena potentially versus some up and young talent. Braun Breaker's a heel. I'd love to see John Cena versus Braun Breaker, but I don't think that's going to happen given that they're both heels. John Cena versus Jey Uso. They're both world champions right now. John Cena versus Sami Zayn. There's a lot of avenues that you can go with for John Cena and a lot of stories to tell still, given he's only got 27 more dates left. I think this ends, though, in December. John Cena, in his final match, walks in as the 17-time WWE champion with the threat of him walking out with the prestigious title that the WWE has had in its 50-plus year history. CM Punk's the only guy that held it hostage, but then he came back after Money in the Bank. I think this is a scenario where John Cena takes the title all the way to December in his final PLE event, in his final match ever in the WWE, and he drops the title to Cody Rhodes. That's kind of the story I think that they're going to tell. I think we're going to get a rematch between then. I think we're going to see John Cena versus Cody Rhodes potentially at SummerSlam at MetLife Stadium in Jersey. But I think John Cena is going to win that one. Everybody's going to think that Cody Rhodes is going to win that match, but he's not going to win the match, which adds more uncertainty. It adds more doubt in the head of Cody Rhodes. Can I beat John Cena? Can I be the leader of this next generation? Can I take the title back from the guy that says he's walking out with the prestige and the lineage of 50-plus years of that WWE Championship in John Cena? I think that's the story that they're going to tell, similar to, John Cena losing to The Rock at WrestleMania 28 and coming back at WrestleMania 29 and finally defeating him. I think that's the story you get with Cody Rhodes and the American Nightmare come December of 2025 and going into 2026 on the road to WrestleMania as the fresh and brand new two-time undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Randy Orton, I want to go back to Randy Orton. He's going to take on John Cena at Backlash. John Cena had a funny line on the Pat McAfee show that Randy Orton and Batista have switched bodies, and it couldn't be any more true. Randy Orton is as jacked as he's ever been. He almost got taller, too. He looks like an NFL linebacker. For the most part of his career, he looked like, the Viper nickname kind of perceived him. He was very lean, very skinny, still, jacked and cut, but not like huge. He wasn't Dave Batista in his prime. 06, 07, 08, 09, Dave Batista, the Animal, the WWE champion, Batista, he was huge. He was an NFL linebacker. Randy Orton did not have that physique, and now all of a sudden Dave Batista goes to Hollywood. He's Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy there for a few years, so he was still jacked, still toned, still eating his chicken and rice, but now he's slimmed down. He's lost like a ton of weight, and Randy Orton has put on a jacked amount of weight, all thanks to Nutella, according to Randy Orton. And we're going to get John Cena, who's also lost a ton of mass, a lot of muscle mass. He's still jacked. He's still got his muscle. He still has his six-pack, but he's not what John Cena was 10 years ago. Not even close. John Cena was a shit brick house, if we're being honest. John Cena versus Randy Orton, I don't think is going to be as technically smooth in the ring as it was in 09, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's going to be different. John Cena's a lot more skinnier. Randy Orton's a lot heavier, and this is going to be interesting. A lot heavier Randy Orton versus a lot skinnier John Cena, a heel John Cena, a babyface Randy Orton. I'm excited. What else we want to talk about? We want to talk about Paul Heyman a little bit more. I've been glazing Paul Heyman on social media all week long. The greatest manager of all time. He's better than Bobby Heenan. He's better than Paul Bearer. He's better than Jimmy Hart. And I think that's the Mount Rushmore of wrestling managers in the history of at least the WWE. I know there's a lot more beyond that, a lot greater managers, but Paul Heyman, for as relevant as he has been for nearly 4+ decades now, it is phenomenal. Paul Heyman is now aligned with Seth freaking Rollins, who is in control of everything, according to Seth Rollins. And he's also the newest Paul Heyman guy, which just caught me off guard, but it shouldn't have because they've worked together behind the scenes. He introduced him to the ring in NXT in 2023. Braun Breaker. Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker are the newest Paul Heyman guys, and I am so pumped to see where they take this direction. Braun Breaker is a Paul Heyman guy. Immediately makes you think of Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. And that's a feud that I hope we see one day with Braun Breaker, with Paul Heyman in his corner. Braun Breaker's kicking ass like we know he will. He's probably going to be a future undisputed WWE champion, and he'll probably beat Cody Rhodes at some point after Cody Rhodes takes the title back from John Cena at some point in 2025. And at some point, I want to see Braun Breaker be as ferocious, be as dangerous as he's ever been, and then you hear Brock Lesnar's music hit, and then you get Braun Breaker versus Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman in the middle, as he always seems to be in these heavy feuds going into SummerSlam and WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble. I think Brock Lesnar versus Braun Breaker sells itself. It's like Brock Lesnar versus a much better and a much younger Bill Goldberg. You know, a guy who's safe in the ring, who has the gnarliest spear out of everybody. Here's the thing. We've seen a lot of spears over the years. We've seen Roman Reigns with the spear. We've seen Edge with the spear. We've seen Goldberg with the spear. We've seen Jey Uso with the spear. We've seen Christian with the spear. We've seen Batista with a spear. I'm probably not mentioning half of them who have dealt spears over the years. Big Show has speared people. I don't think we've ever seen a better version of a spear, just like a legit linebacker tackle like we have with Braun Breaker. That spear that he delivered to Carlito a couple weeks ago before WrestleMania was the deadliest spear we've ever seen in the history of sports entertainment. I would even go back to the one that he did against Ludwig Kaiser last May in 2024. That was a devastating spear. The one that he did against Roman Reigns the Raw after WrestleMania was a very devastating spear. Anytime Braun Breaker is in the ring, whether he's delivering spears, whether he's delivering Frankensteiners, he is must-watch television in WWE. And I think a Brock Lesnar versus Braun Breaker match would put hundreds of thousands of asses in seats, whether it's at SummerSlam, whether it's at the Rumble, whether it's at WrestleMania. They will sell out a stadium if we ever see that match between Braun Breaker and Brock Lesnar. So Brock Lesnar is not here right now. Braun Breaker is. Who's Braun Breaker going to face in his first feud? I think we're going to get a tag team match initially. I think we're going to see Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker versus CM Punk and Roman Reigns, with those two vying for, their revenge on Paul Heyman, who portrayed them at WrestleMania. Then I think we're probably going to get a Braun Breaker versus CM Punk rivalry. I think you put Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman involved as the forefront. CM Punk, you take on Braun Breaker. Seth Rollins, you take on Roman Reigns. Then I think we're going to see Braun Breaker versus Roman Reigns. Here's the cool thing about all of this. It's so fresh, and we have to let them cook, as Sam Roberts would say. But there are years of storylines that could be told between these three guys. If they don't add more in the next coming weeks to form this new dangerous alliance that I think Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins are forming. We could see Braun Breaker versus Roman Reigns. We could see Braun Breaker versus CM Punk. We could see CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. We could see Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. We could even see Braun Breaker versus Seth Rollins down the road, probably at the very end of this story, considering that Paul Heyman has a tendency to turn on everybody that he partners with. He's a total scumbag, and that's why we love Paul Heyman. I don't think we're going to see Braun Breaker take on John Cena in his retirement tour. I don't think we're going to see Braun Breaker take on Cody Rhodes anytime soon, though maybe at WrestleMania 42, if Cody Rhodes wins the title back, Cody Rhodes versus Braun Breaker, you could build to that potentially, unless Cody Rhodes turns heel after choosing to be the good guy and losing to the bad guy at WrestleMania. Maybe that changes his mind. Maybe his outlook is a little bit different following WrestleMania. I don't know the next time we're going to see Cody Rhodes, but I think there's a lot of stories to be told with Braun Breaker. I think this is the first rivalry. Actually, no, it's not. I was going to say it's the first rivalry in which CM Punk doesn't really have a personal feud with this wrestler. Like, CM Punk has come back to the WWE and has wrestled matches with guys that legitimately had animosity towards him, whether they worked that out or not before their matches. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre was personal. CM Punk versus Seth Rollins was personal and still is personal. CM Punk versus Roman Reigns is personal, and CM Punk versus essentially Paul Heyman over the next few months is personal, though that's fictionally personal, given that they are still best friends in real life. CM Punk versus Braun Breaker, that's just business, man. That's just flat out good old-fashioned business. CM Punk versus Braun Breaker, and I'm assuming CM Punk's probably going to put over Braun Breaker at some point. Roman Reigns might even put over Braun Breaker at some point. Seth Rollins will probably put over Braun Breaker at some point, and I see Cody Rhodes in the far future putting over Braun Breaker as well. I think Braun Breaker is going to be the undisputed WWE champion by 2026. I don't think we'll see it in 2025, but by 2026, Braun Breaker will be a world champion in WWE. What else you guys want to talk about? There's a lot of things going on. A huge weekend in professional wrestling in Las Vegas. We saw John Cena win his title back. We saw Paul Heyman with the big betrayal. We saw Io Sky defend the women's triple threat match against Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. What else we got on this list? Oh, that was interesting. John Cena's heel turn. I've heard a lot of people, in which they call marks. I think Sam Roberts dubbed himself the leader of the marks. I'm a mark myself. I love professional wrestling, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. A lot of people online don't think John Cena's heel turn has been justified to this point. Listen, The Rock didn't come back at WrestleMania. We settled that score, right? John Cena has come back to WWE in his final run I think it started with 36 dates. We have 27 dates left with the champ. He's a heel for the first time in his career. I think as soon as he turned heel, everybody was stunned in the moment. I was stunned. I was jumping up and down like a 4-year-old kid. One of the greatest moments I've ever witnessed live in professional wrestling. I think there's only been 2 or 3 times in which I was jumping up and down like a 4-year-old watching professional wrestling in the last couple of years. It was when CM Punk returned to the WWE at Survivor Series 2023, and it was John Cena turning heel against Cody Rhodes, aligning himself with The Rock and Travis Scott at the Elimination Chamber 2025. It was a big moment, but I think everybody had insane expectations for it after that. Like, we're getting new ring attire. We're getting new entrance theme. We're getting a vicious heel John Cena on the mic. We didn't get any of that because of the whole story that John Cena is now trying to tell, now that we've gotten 4 or 5 more dates out of him to really see what this heel persona is going to be, is kind of a baby face that's just fed up with the fans. Let's go Cena, Cena sucks. Let's go Cena, Cena sucks. Let's go Cena, Cena sucks. He heard it for 25 years, ladies and gentlemen. That would piss off just about anybody. You don't get behind the guy the guy in the office that we don't talk about anymore put on a pedestal for 25 years. He put 16 world championships on the guy. John Cena isn't giving us the heel version that us, the fans, wanted to see, and I personally have come to terms with that. Other people online, the marks, have not. Here's what you got to know about this heel run for John Cena. He's going to do it in a way that legitimately makes you hate him. You booed him for 25 years. You cheered him a little bit in the last couple years because he didn't show up as often, and you appreciated that he was the greatest of all time and that he did put in the work and he did bust his ass, and he was indeed the franchise. But John Cena is now going to give us a run that is going to make us hate him, because that's what a heel does, ladies and gentlemen. We want to cheer the heel. You know, we cheered a tribal chief Roman Reigns after booing the face Roman Reigns for nearly 7 years. We cheered a heel Seth Rollins. We cheered a heel CM Punk. We're cheering a heel Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins right now. John Cena doesn't want to be cheered as a heel. He wants to be booed. And how do you get booed as a heel? How do you get real heat with the fans? By not giving us what we fucking want. That's what John Cena is doing. So for everybody out there that isn't enjoying John Cena's heel run as of right now, all you got to do, like he said, is sit on your ass and watch him be great.